Welcome back, everybody. We're over in Brazil now for Fatal Ambition versus Carnage Gaming. Dolson Gormizer and a 2-month-old sleeping puppy just next to me, so we're fingers crossed that one lasts for the next set at least. Gore, though, we're over here in Brazil, and this one somewhat interesting, especially after Fatal Ambition win all 5 against Ignite Gaming, a team maybe comparable to Carnage Gaming here in Brazil.
Yeah, this is one that's actually kind of caught my eye just because of the fact that between the two of them, you know, Fatal Ambition, they carry a lot of weight in their names. They carry a lot of weight, I think, in their play, but not in their score, right? That's the thing that kind of confuses me. Everything that we've seen out of this team in the past has been a team that is keeping up with, you know, the likes of In Control or Ignite, maybe even being able to keep pace a little bit with Carnage. But so far, not being able to do so here, I think they have to do a little bit of a shuffle. Honestly, this is one of those maps or sets, realistically, that Carnage specifically, if they're trying to look to take on Parallax, they've got to decimate Fatal Ambition. I mean, they can't have any doubts in their mind what this is going to be if they want to start shooting for number 1.
Yeah, it's a second place versus second to last matchup here in Ice Mine score, map number 1. So setting the pace, a very specific pace, especially after the one you and Finch just got off of. I think that's the longest possible, right? Go up 3-0 and then the other team ends up winning just 1 point at a time. I think that's the longest possible Ice Mines, and you guys just got it. So right back to Ice Mines we go. Carnage Gaming in that first pick spot. Terminus Gore, very strong, started to come into the meta at the beginning of the phase, now firmly planted here, especially on Ice Mines, seems like a good ban.
This is one of his best maps, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, he plays on here better than he plays, I think, virtually anywhere. Maybe Stone Keep is up in the list of maps for Terminus, but this is where we saw him kind of shuffle back into the meta, and I think we're going to continue seeing him control things, you know, in the event of an Ice Mines pickup. But like you said, with him banned, I think this is a good call. For Carnage, you know, it depends on where they want to put their focus. I like Ash up here as well. This, to me, screams that they want the Inara more than anything. I wouldn't be surprised if they first pick it.
Still available, still there. One more ban, though, for Fatal Ambition to maybe take that away, if that carries just a little bit of extra weight. Of course, the Corvus still around, the Mark Healers both very important in the current meta, the Genos very important, I think, to take away. So I at least agree with Fatal Ambition's first ban here, and then Corvus, the second ban. Gore, I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, again, being able to put things right back into, I don't know if I want to say place, but you get rid of the 2 supports that are going to be maybe the most highly valued. Although, there is something to be said that I feel like that second one could have been something more maybe target banned at Carnage specifically, and then you could have scooped up Corvus or Genos, right? You could have gotten one of those picks, and then you start looking at it, Vivian and Victor both available. This could be an easy portion for either of them to be able to scoop it up pretty easily. Maybe you just grab both right now. I mean, they're both pretty solid on Ice Mines. Go for it.
That's right. Victor, very good from up there on the high ground, finding that confirmable damage down low. Space Control, at one point, Gore, those big circles of damage, whether it was Bomb King, Drogos, the likes of those blaster-type characters, used to be the name of the game here on Ice Mines, has sort of shifted out towards a little bit more direct damage. But still definitely that opportunity for one of these two teams. Rom, though, left open over to Fatal Ambition. They will not be sad with a Victor and a Rom 2-stack for their first round of picks.
Yeah, I think this is, again, maybe something more than happy. I don't know how to describe it other than, yes, you love this. You're always happy to have this on Ice Mines. Victor, Rom going to be very oppressive. And based on what we just saw in literally the last set, this is going to be a really good winning combo. Granted, you don't get the Genos behind it, so maybe there is a little bit of shakiness there. But Fatal Ambition, there's not a lot of ways that you really feel weak here. Inara, Xin, Atlas, yes, there's, I think, some capabilities to get to the background and cause a lot of trouble for your DPS. But I don't think it's going to be consistent enough that you're really sweating it yet.
Where do we land on Atlas? Atlas has really started to see a bit of a resurgence here recently. I mean, the damage obviously changed a little bit and then changed again a few weeks after that. It's still very, I think, cooldown dependent if he's without his own second chance, without the setback for the enemies. I mean, obviously that leaves him a little bit vulnerable, but we started to see this rise of play in the Atlas. Do you think it's worthwhile?
Honestly, yes and no. I think he's really good at what he does and in the right hands, which, we've gotten to see a little bit in Europe. We've seen in North America. I think we've even seen down here in Brazil. He can look phenomenal. But I also think in the wrong hands, he can maybe give you almost be detrimental to your team. And I think there's a couple of picks that are like that. Khan, I think, is a good example. In the right hands, we've seen Khan absolutely control the pace of everything. And then you roll back to, again, the last map of the last set, and Khan is maybe part of the reason you end up losing the whole thing. So you have to be very careful, I think, with Atlas. He's a little more consistent than someone like Khan, so maybe it's not a very great comparison. But I do think, he just rides that line. I mean, think of Ruckus from last year, think of Ruckus from years ago, and in fact, think of Ruckus now, even though people aren't picking him in Brazil and North America. He's a DPS that has a lot of health. I think that's where Atlas comes in. He's not going to be standing on the front line. He's going to use his wall to facilitate Zen or Tiberius in this matchup, and he's going to find a lot of damage while he does it.
Yeah, Tiberius I like here as well, Gore. 29% win rate, take it as it is. It's a tough spot for Tiberius, but I think maybe even falls under a similar category to the Atlas in that in the right hands, we've seen Tiberius excel in some of those one-on-one engagements. The heavy blade tends to be the talent of choice. And I see the little head bob, Gore, for good reason. The near 70% win rate BK coming through here for Fatal Ambition, so they've got great direct damage from range with the Victor, and now good space control as well with the Bomb King.
I will say, I think this is good. Ice Mines, this is a great draft. I mean, Victor, Bomb King as your two DPS are going to be solid. Nando versus Anara is a little shaky. And I think the ROM is also, again, kind of on the fence for what we've seen performance-wise as of late. But at the same time, we've seen nothing but good when it comes down to Bomb King and Victor. Right. I think that they are usually going to be someone you can bet on. Tiberius, man, I didn't see his win rate. I have to go back and maybe potentially look it up because, in my mind, he's losing a lot, even though I know he's not. Yeah, he is not maybe great here in Brazil as much as he is, I think, in North America, where he's been winning a little bit more games. But I'm just going to say it. He's not won me over. I think all year in competitive, he is one of my favorite champions to play, and he's one of my favorites to watch. But he doesn't really bring the impact, so this is going to be a big one for Carnage to try and prove that one wrong.
I agree. I still think very situational on the Tiberius. We've seen the carry-type games, and he's fallen by the wayside in some of the others. Carnage Gaming versus Fatal Ambition. Map number 1. Down to Ice Mines we go. This one very important, I think, for Fatal Ambition, as every match has been. But, Gore, at some point, the story needs to change for these guys where week in, week out, they push the limits of their matchups. They go the distance. Even if it's a 3-0, it seems like all of their games are 4-3 in the scoreline. At some point, you got to start, I think, converting some of those to big wins, looking for their second win here, at least in this phase of the PPC. This is where we expect Ares to be a good bit here this game, trying to whittle down the health bar of that Victor, and he's done a good job of it so far.
And I'm going to go ahead and say, at least in my mind, I think the way to describe it, especially here in Brazil, is definitely the Bala Mansa effect, right? You can go to 7 points with anybody, but you lose the set 3-0 no matter what.
That's right.
Maybe you can push it all 5 games, but you just don't find those wins. Right now, though, you need a little bit more impact, and specifically, you need to lock down Ares. I've not seen him much on this Tiberius. I can guarantee you do not want him getting off to a run.
Rochelle over on the Atlas. How about that setback onto RC Soldier and the flank around to the backside? It's going to be great for Cool here as he gets one onto Headed, but a 2-for-2 trade so far as Fatal Ambition still have a bit of a foothold here. Ares pops the stim there, sends some blades, dancing on into the front line of Fatal Ambition. Easy as you like on that kill, and now the ultimate comes out, but this one's a bit of a disengage. The wall goes up, and down goes Ares right onto Divino. And now without an Atlas, Fatal Ambition, or a ROM rather, Fatal Ambition, no chance. Carnage Gaming run away with point 1.
Stop the payload.
I mean, again, good play from them, good control, and good damage. Ares is making this pick look really good on the Tiberius. Also, that Grover, I got to talk about it last time on Ice Mines, but I think this is something, if you are playing on, again, a few maps, he is going to be able to fill in a lot of these roles well. Cool's able to pick up a kill. I mean, this is the kind of pressure you need to find this big swing, potentially a conversion here on Ice Mines. It feels like Fatal Ambition almost need to just wait and regroup inside their base before getting aggressive.
It sure doesn't feel like Fatal Ambition, even for a moment, has gotten their feet under them on the defense. And now losing RC Soldier, the Bomb King, very difficult, I think, to keep the push at bay, at least further from where they're going here. A barrage comes down, not much there either. Rashao still with the cooldowns, pulls himself right on back in. And that's a nice rewind onto Groundford, forces out the Immortal here. RC Soldier locked in over onto the side. You usually see the King Bomb paired with the Immortal, but he's found nothing. Now Ares presses down on the gas pedal, dashing through Davino, but the cart still rolling itself forward. Victor locked into the back of his base. Rom locked into the graveyard. And Carnage Gaming will find their second point.
That's just good. Like, there's not a lot of ways to break it down. When you get a 2-0 on Ice Mines, you're just playing well when it comes down to it. The other team isn't able to do too much. 2 total kills there for Fatal Ambition throughout all of it. One onto Cool, one onto Rachao. But, I mean, you're not locking down one of the most losing champions that is going to exist right now in Paladins. That I think you have to figure that one out. And this does start to bring up the question. I think Headed is not maybe getting the protection necessary, but RC Soldier really does need to get aggressive. Could have a pop-off round. Comeback mechanic enabled, double comeback here for Fatal Ambition. Should start the process to make Carnage Gaming have a more difficult round, but you're going to need way more than what you had last round to make it work, even at all here. So the pressure, I think, still not only mounted, but really on for Fatal Ambition to try and figure out well, just anything. I want to see the Bomb King pop off if they're going to find any sort of control.
Well, there's some good dismounts right on through from Crimson to start things off, and now RC Soldier is going to Poppy Bomb his way in, but immediately set right back out. Cool has found the opening kill here in this engagement, and Scooter will add the second as RC Soldier unable to disengage fully from the fight. The Exiles, here's some value for you as Carnage Gaming start to work their way in. Gore, this tends to be a death sentence here on Ice Mine's Fatal Ambition. I'm not sure they get a single kill, and now Carnage Gaming can zone.
Yeah, that's usually good for you when you are able to go pretty much deathless in the round and you feel pretty confident in controlling things. If you're Ares and you're cool, you haven't died again, and you're sitting on the point at 87%, even if they're able to get in and get a touch here, there's not a lot of kill potential for Fatal Ambition from this angle, and they're not even able to get in there and touch. They're not able to force the overtime. They do get a kill onto Cool right there at the tail end of the capture, which might give them the small amount of pressure they need in order to get some applied here and kind of stall out the beginning portions of this push. Let's call it for at least 45 seconds.
Ares was fighting exactly where he wanted to be there and was able to cleave out some good damage. Unfortunately, Headed takes him down. This is a better look already from Fatal Ambition. If you're at least able to slow down the Carnage Gaming push a little bit, then Carnage won't have as much time to try to get that conversion later on. Oh, but that seismic crash is a big one. A double for Scooter, a double for Crimson, and now Davino, the last line of defense, but he's not even in range to get this cart stopped. Carnage Gaming don't spend much, and they get a sweep.
I mean, that is, geez, maybe the best way to describe the first round, too, right? They didn't spend much, and yet they still get a sweep. That seems to be the way this is going. This is what I was talking about. You want to roll it back, you know, towards the beginning of Picks and Bans for the last game of Set 1, where I'm talking about how Ice Mines has slowly become a map that you can easily 4-0 on if you know what you're doing and you can get a good draft for it. This is what Carnage Gaming are doing. I mean, this is a map specifically Ares has a lot of very high-level experience on. I guess same thing there for Rachao to be able to kind of pick it up. This does feel like it's going to be a stall as they start to get a kill specifically on a Rachao, but this is a good showing for Carnage Gaming. Again, pretty much what they need to do on every map here, in my mind, if they want to show that they're worthy, I should say, of taking down Parallax.
Well, Fatal Ambition spend the King Bomb, spend the Dread Serpent. Works out this time around. That's the wall sent on up from Scooter. Keep Fatal Ambition at bay just a little bit longer. This ROM, not as much value, I don't think, as Fatal Ambition had been looking for. Crimson on a rampage. That'll happen, I guess, when you're on a 21 streak on the old Grover there. Definitely going to weave a few kills in at some point. Now here's the repush from Carnage Gaming. This one very important for Fatal Ambition to find a few answer kills, but not to be, as Crimson will add another one as Headed goes down as well. So the payload is going to start its march forward, Gore, but with 10 seconds left, Carnage Gaming can't afford to miss. But remember, they could end the game here. I imagine they'll be okay to use some ults.
Yeah, 4 ults available, a 5th one on its way. I think you're more than willing. Also, what, you've dropped 5 kills, 6 kills total this entire game? You're more than willing to drop a couple of ults if you deem it necessary. And this is good from Ares as well, getting the pressure onto those who are just barely window peeking outside of their spawn to try and keep that healing. But no, he gets pressured out. That's what that Bomb King can bring. It's what I've been missing this entire game.
Oh, but here's a whirlwind, a rewind rather, pulls Rashao way back up to the high ground. A whirlwind countered out largely by Fatal Ambition. Still a couple of ultimates ready to go if need be. Down goes the Victor. Seismic Crash is going to lock RC Soldier in up on the high ground.
Cool.
It's a double for Cool, and Immortal down on the low is immediately set back on in. Carnage Gaming, they're in a beautiful spot here to get this payload pushed on in and off on game number 1, but a Dread Serpent has something else in mind. The retake, the re-attempt from Fatal Ambition, Gore. It looks like it's going to be enough, and Carnage Gaming will be just short.
Man, all I can say, even though that ends up being a disruption, and there's probably a lot to really dive into, is just F to pay respects for Bomb King. And it's not there at the end, but slightly before when that Inara just eviscerates him and smacks him down with that Seismic Crash. I mean, that really does come down to the fact that if he was, 10 feet more forward, he would have gotten caught and the Immortal would have been saved by Groundford and potentially been able to defend that round slightly sooner. Either way, 8-1, 6-1, 11-5, those are slash lines of a winning team here as it comes through. But Ares and Rachao, I think, showcasing, it's actually funny considering they're the ones that have maybe the longest streak of competitive play on this team, that they are the ones doing technically the worst in terms of their KDA. You can see the damage from the Tiberius definitely being impactful as he keeps up on top of the Victor. But that is where maybe the shuffle needs to be made. If you're over here on Fatal Ambition, keep finding those kills. It seems to have worked for you there at the end. You got rid of Ares first. So RC Soldier has a target. It's just whether or not he can get back there to deal with it.
It's just been a brutal game so far to be Victor up on the high ground there. At least a slower start here probably benefits Fatal Ambition on their way back in. By this time in the previous 2 mid-fights, they'd been blown off the map. So Carnage Gaming at least happy for that. Rashao melted through as well, but that's a King Bomb. Does not get triggered. And an important note there that RC Soldier will still have that ultimate on his way back in, should the fight still be going on. Divino rumbles his way in onto the high ground. He's found Ares locked in, and Ares now stunned down. A double kill for Headed. The best look so far for Fatal Ambition.
I mean, yeah, being able to get in there, get aggressive, double comeback enabled as well. They should be able to cap this with a very small effort in their defense, although you can see a couple of members of Carnage Gaming already in the neighborhood, which makes things a little awkward, specifically for Cools, because if he can get in there, he can stall for a while, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to close the gap.
Yeah, no re-engage. Gore, it's happening again. This just happened to you guys last set where the team down 3-0 started to make a comeback into this one. Now Fatal Ambition could tie the game with a successful push here. But the writing is almost already on the wall here, 2 minutes into the game. With Groundford going down, that completes the full-on kill sweep there for Carnage Gaming. We'll take a quick pause before we jump on back into things here. But Gore, a slight resurgence from Fatal Ambition in this previous mid-fight. Very uncharacteristic from what we've seen out of Carnage in the previous 2.
Yeah, I think that's actually the better note to leave it on, right? Like, is it Fatal Ambition doing really well, or is it Carnage dropping the ball? I want to say a little bit of both. I definitely do want to give credit where credit's due. I think Fatal Ambition are playing this one pretty well, but I also think there's something that just seemed to fall apart there for Carnage. Yeah. I'm not going to say I blame it on any of the picks, although I will say that there's a reason that Tiberius is relatively low and on the charts, and especially in winning, in comparison to something like a Victor and a Bomb King. I just think this is an interesting overall draft, I think, for Carnage Gaming. It still has a lot of potential to work, but you can't win off of defense. Cool, you can do whatever you want here. It'll be fine. It's the next mid-fight that you're more worried about. A lot of the ults that are available are still going to be very solid for team fights. I think they have a lot of potential to continue controlling pretty much everything that they have in their favor, but you don't want to lose fights like that. No. Especially, again, you're trying to fight for first place. You can afford one every now and then. It's not the end of the world, but you really do need to keep up the pressure that you had in like round 1, right? Constantly throughout this entire set. You have to just, foot to throat, make sure they are down. You cannot let Fatal Ambition fight back too much.
Agreed, and that's why I'm happy that if you're Carnage Gaming or a Carnage Gaming fan, you're happy that immediately on the defense they had Fatal Ambition pushed all the way back to their side of the map, working on quick issue on our end. We'll get you right back into game soon enough. But Gore, Looking over at the Atlas pick, I think that's one we had a decent discussion about in picks and bans. Rashao, of course, piloting the Atlas is always going to look. I think the floor for that is always, good at least. Have you liked what you've seen so far from the pick?
Yeah, I think it's at least able to come through and make an impact, although I think there's a lot of room to grow. Realistically, I think what we're looking for, and this is maybe going to come into it, but it's the synergy of ults between the entire team, right? Like, one pick being able to come through and at least find its performance is always going to be great. But right now, you look at Fatal Ambition's comp, and I think it just lends itself to performing better around all of their ultimates, as opposed to Carnage Gaming. I mean, I look at Atlas ult, it's just kind of a stall. You look at Tiberius ult, that's just kind of a, I want to say 1v1, maybe a 2v1 kind of team fight. The other three can be used phenomenally, but I just don't know if they're hitting the same way that they need to, specifically because they haven't been able to find as much success these last couple of fights. Again, that's neither here nor there. I think it is just coming down to the fact that Fatal Ambition, specifically RC Soldier right now, is maybe having a little bit more of just a better performance than he was in the first couple of rounds. He got that warm-up out of the way, right? So he's able to bring in this Bomb King and just look a little more solid.
Well, right back in we go, and Fatal Ambition, a good counterpunch on the defensive end. Notably, the Dread Serpent, I think, opened up a good bit of that space. Got Carnage Gaming kind of on the back foot here. Now RC Soldier being dove on just a bit, but a little bit of peel there from Divino. Unfortunately, Ares weaves the shots around the side, 1-for-1 trade. Maybe benefits Carnage Gaming here, especially now that Cool has gotten his second. How about this for some backline dive? Rashao is just going to walk his way in, but Headed did enough damage to set up a kill for Rubson there. So not really heavy on the stagger one way or another here, Gore, but Carnage Gaming probably come out ahead.
I mean, any time that you can stop a team, 30 seconds left on Ice Mines, it's a long time to try and get back to that payload. And granted, the way that we've seen this, if this was Carnage Gaming with 30 seconds left, I'll say that there's probably some bias out there that would say I'd be mentioning that they still have time to be able to get back to the payload. But I think for Fatal Ambition, it's a tall ask. The way this game has gone, it's going to be very difficult for them as a squad to be able to get back in touch, especially if your Fernando's going to get taken down that way. So it's looking good for Carnage just through and through. Now it's just up to the next mid-fight to see if they can control it.
That's right. It's about kind of changing the tide of what we had just seen in the previous mid-fight. Time and time again, it feels like these Dread Serpents have kind of been saving the day for Fatal Ambition. And that one is up and available for this next mid-fight. So despite 5, 8, and 14, I think the ultimates look a little better than the slash line suggests out of Rubson. I think the big story here, Gore, 10 and 12 out of Headed. He's found 109,000 damage, but the answers by Carnage Gaming, I think, have just been there a little bit too consistently.
Yeah, that's the key word, consistent, right? And as long as you keep Headed locked down, and specifically Ares maybe on the other side isn't getting the same amount of attention, then you're going to find yourself at a deficit. Even if he puts out all the damage, even if he gets his barrage back almost instantly here, and even finds a couple of kills, if he's losing every single one, let's say 1v1, or if he's getting caught out in every team fight, that's where most of your pressure comes from, is this consistent, sustained damage from the Victor in the backline. So there's, I think, even more pressure on Headed. Maybe the squad around him to keep him alive, because now RC Soldier's gone. You're losing a lot of your DPS.
Well, Rubson had to drop down the Dread Serpent in the back line there. This is an important one for Scooter to win onto Rubson in the back. He's able to do so. That's going to leave Headed effectively all alone, but watch out, in the back line is a member of Fatal Ambition as well. A couple shots from the barrage drop in. Low enough on the health bar, though, that Scooter is able to get the kill. Divino makes his way right back to the point, Gore. We'll jump in to another quick pause. Carnage Gaming, though, right around that 20% mark. Fatal Ambition, 6% or so. Cleaner by Carnage Gaming in this one, I think. Not as clean as the first two had been, but definitely have given themselves a chance to close out the game.
Look, let me tell you, nothing feels better to me. Like, it's fun to kill people from top to bottom, get their full health bar. But sometimes just finding that last hit's really fun as an Inara.
Really nice.
Maybe better than that is being able to wall off a King Bomb and let your team get the kill.
Yeah, man, RC Soldier just unfortunate on a few of the King Bombs here in this game. Now Carnage Gaming look to push themselves out just a little bit. Rubson down, so is Scooter, though, on the other side. Divino waltzing his way in, back towards the point. Rashao has done some good damage over onto Headed. not sure that the time is there, Gore. Carnage Gaming
Get back there.
locking down a good bit of the percentage here. Ares finally gets the kill, headed though with a double. He has to jump on down. It's a double for Ares himself. 96% for Carnage Gaming. The Poppy Bomb won't touch down in time, and Carnage Gaming take the win.
That's the closest you could get to like a buzzer beater, like literal equivalent, is with Bomb King looking to jump in. Depending on how the rules would have seen, then maybe he could have actually held on to it, and maybe it was the game-winning plant if he was able to land there. But because of Paladins, you have a little bit of a dome that you have to get into, and he just wasn't able to get there within that last tick. And he also didn't have the King Bomb, so he lands, maybe gets overtime for a little bit, but that didn't feel like it was going to be very successful. 4 and 14 for the Bomb King. It just did not. Look, man.
You hate that more than
his
anyone.
Win rate. Look at everything else that that Bomb King has done. Do not take this game as the only time we've seen Bomb King today as what it is like to be Bomb King, because that is not just not a great performance for him, and especially not an Ice Mines performance for him. I think that shows more or less how solid Carnage Gaming were, especially Ares. I mean, 128,000 damage on a very low win rate champion is impressive to put out.
Yeah. And, Groundford as well. I don't want to harp on too many of the negatives for Fatal Ambition, but maybe more so the Fernando on a whole. I believe 3 and 11 is where that slash line was. So just kind of putting a D to it. Fatal Ambition, the front line sort of crumbled too many times. The back line as well couldn't find the same consistency. And maybe, Gore, and some thanks to the 1-2 punch of the Sin and the Tiberius on the Carnage Gaming side.
And now that I've seen that, maybe a question of decision making. I don't know. I feel like you could have gone as Bomb King maybe to the left there, gotten rid of the Zen, and potentially found the kill. I feel like a lot of this, now that I'm looking at it, it's becoming a montage on RC Soldier more than it's coming a montage for them maybe finding a lot of wins. This is just good control when it comes down to it. I mean, that's a good seismic crash, good ults, good timing on everybody. And when it comes down to it, you can really highlight where, unfortunately, again, like not harping on the negatives too much, but where Fatal Ambition are making their mistakes. You see them a lot more elevated here from all these perspectives kind of in slow-mo than you get to see in the game, where it's just, little small decisions that ultimately add up as the game goes on. You don't get 4-0'd, but you still come out with the slash lines of a team that got 4-0'd. I don't know if you really won anything in that, even though you had those 2 points.
Well, Gore, we head on over to Brightmarsh here for game number 2. We already saw the Bomb King on Ice Mine, so maybe if we're willing to take him there, we'll be willing to take him on Brightmarsh. But I think unfortunate for Fatal Ambition in that they got a couple of the front lines that most of the teams like to use in these matches. The Rom, the Fernando has started to see a rise in play as well, but I think that's one of those games where it's hard because I don't think you can harp on any one of the picks, probably Bomb King maybe most notably. But you get a lot of value in your front line there, Gore, if you're Fatal Ambition, at least in the draft phase, but maybe not so much in the game. So I wonder if there's maybe a retooling of priority going into Brightmarsh.
This is where I think as a team you have to start to question yourselves. There was a lot of tank ban priority, specifically from Carnage, banning out the Ashe and the Terminus, making sure that you didn't go through. We didn't get to see a single Vivian, I think, that game, which is remarkable to me because now she's banned out. But going to a map like Brightmarsh, this is where your Inara is still going to be very solid. I think your Ashe can be very solid. Your Rom can be very good. I'm going to start saying it because Europe has been doing it. More people need to start picking up Ruckus. Whether or not he's successful for you, you need to be able to play him. I think on the world stage, when you're looking at every other region, the greatest teams we've seen in Paladins who have won most consistently have had great Ruckus players. I think he is almost necessary, even if he's not so heavily in the meta right now and you can run triple DPS. I think he slots in really well. And I'd like to see Carnage, I think, more than anybody in this region start to pick that up. I think it'd be good for them as a fit between Scooter and Rachao. I think it'd be an easy slot in for one of the 2 tank players. And already we're seeing that kind of pivot that you had mentioned, right? Where your focus is going to be. If I'm Carnage, Inara has been very big, but Genos is available, Corvus is available. You're also going to still have Victor on the line. And so what you pick is going to be very indicative, I think, of the way you want to play.
And, Gore, I think before we jump fully in, you kind of zoom out again, really shows how individual of a draft strategy I think Ice Mines has on its own. I mean, all of the bans totally different from what we saw on Ice Mines. And Droxus, now that I'm seeing him banned, obviously maybe not the best on Ice Mines, but fantastic in the current meta that we've seen. So definitely worth noting that Ice Mines always brings not only interesting play styles, but champion picks and bans as well. Rom, we point out, first pick here. Corvus is going to be the pick of the 2 Mark Healers, Gore. Do you think he warrants a pick over Genos here, or is it just kind of what you're going for with your specific composition?
I think it's team-wide, right? Like, depending on what you want. I personally prefer Genos, but I think that's just because I think damage usually is just going to be better, right? Especially in a matchup like this. Letting Carnage have Genos, I don't think this is going to affect him too much just because of the fact that, hey, we get to hit you harder now, more often. Like, we just always do 15% more damage. Corvus brings a lot of his own merits and is pretty safe in and of itself compared to something like Genos. But at the same time, it's the pluses and the minuses. I think Genos Buck is going to be hitting a lot harder than Corvus Zen.
I think worth considering, Gore, that the Void Grip is often used as kind of a counter utility to the ROM, and Fatal Ambition, despite that, still going over towards the Corvus, leaving the Genos again over to Carnage Gaming. So I think an interesting piece of draft strategy to take note of. Barrage incoming, says Victor, as he joins our pick column for Fatal Ambition, headed, I think, decent value out of the Victor, maybe the highest performer of Fatal Ambition in game number 1 on Ice Mines. Definitely can lock down some good space with the Barrage, and of course that direct damage here on Brightmarsh. And I like this change from Fatal Ambition. Inara still available, scoop her up. I think that's a big boon to the Fatal Ambition draft.
Kind of surprised she went that far down, honestly. I love Inara.
Yeah,
I love her more than I love Rom. I love her more than I like Zen in this. So seeing her, kind of fall to the wayside, it's maybe big for either of these squads. Plus, big control, right? You're looking at the point fight. This is great for Fatal Ambition. But Carnage Gaming, damage-wise, yeah, maybe Rom isn't going to go toe-to-toe with Inara on the point. He can still hold his own. Same thing can be said for Ashe. Both more than capable of bullying Inara off of the objective, if not maybe trying and find the kill. But Cassie Buck with a Genos Luminary boost behind him as well. That's a very solid controlling draft from Carnage. It does have its flaws, though. It is very aggression-based. And if they slip up once, I can see Fatal Ambition really just clamping their jaws down on them and not letting them survive throughout the rest of the map.
Yeah, my God, you look at literally everyone on Carnage Gaming, and what they want to do is run at you, literally from tanks to backliners. Lots of running into Fatal Ambition, you imagine, will be happening, all with a little extra damage on top thanks to the Genos. It's a con to round out the draft here, Gore, for Fatal Ambition. Do you think that solves the missing piece that Fatal had through their first 4 picks?
Man, I'm going to tell you, I've already seen one con pick today that did not work out very well. I think he still has a lot of weight underneath him that he's able to bring.
He's been working out, Gore, come on.
But man, does he need to look different than that one. That was, 3 and 12 that he was able to bring up earlier, and he missed a lot of overpowers. I'm going to go ahead and say it again. I think I said this earlier, but I don't care if you miss your ult, I don't care if you go negative as long as you hit your ults. If you miss your ults, then you are missing 90%, I would say, of the reason to pick Con right now. So there's a lot of weight on Fatal Ambition to make sure those connect. It doesn't have to be every single one of them, but as long as you hit, let's say 7 out of 10, right? A good 70%, get a C rating on your ultimate usage, that's good for me.
Right, it's like if you're going to pick Drogos in the current meta, you need to be hitting that Dragon Punch. It's the insta-gib potential, immediately turning a fight into a 5v4. Warrants a pick, I think, and it's the one thing you can go back to, numbers aside, that still says, all right, Khan definitely makes some sense here. So, value on the table. Hopefully it's not left there by Divino here in game number 2. Fatal Ambition need a small injection of adrenaline, I think, here. And Scooter, exactly as we expect, sprints on into the back line. But this time, though, Fatal Ambition have a good enough answer to prevent that first kill from coming on in. He's looking for a target here. Headed was able to disengage from that fight pretty well. He had a Rom sprinting at him, but he stays alive. But Gore, you gotta be concerned. It's already cresting 45% for Carnage Gaming.
All right, now I'd have to see Genos' loadout to verify whether or not what I'm about to say is fully accurate, but I will throw out there there is a limit to how far that mark will go, and I will have to see. Yeah, he does have Light Years 5, which is going to be very solid, which is increasing the range of Astromark, so you can throw it out a little bit further while you're there, which on a lot of maps is enough to be able to give you the distance necessary. But I think even Buck was outside of that range. I mean, they went really deep, really fast there for Carnage Gaming, and I just don't know that they were ever going to find enough weight to make it pay off.
Oh no, RC Soldier connects with the spite there, but it doesn't matter. But Carnage Gaming not quick enough on the retake attempt. Fatal Ambition had just been sitting on the point that entire time, so, you know, spite doesn't get you a kill, but it does delay the Ash from moving in. What a play from Fatal Ambition. What at first from RC Soldier maybe looks like a misplay, actually locks down the tank from converting and getting that overtime touch. So Carnage Gaming start off Brightmarsh on the defense.
And already, well, you can see this defense going pretty well, right? I mean, that payload has not moved. Now it's gone a couple of feet as they finally start to get some of the pressure. Chow and Aries going to go down. Cool as well. I mean, not maybe in the best position in terms of, let's say, quote-unquote defense, but great in terms of distraction factor and at least slowing things down again. At this point, my eyes are for Carnage Gaming just buying time right here, and that's exactly what Scooter's doing as well. That is not a, oh, I'm running around because I think I'm going to kill you. That is a, hey guys, look at me. See that payload? It's not moving. As long as you're looking at me, I don't care what's going on for the rest of this. But this is where things do start to fall apart for me. I think they still have a really solid chance of defending. I think Cassie with the high ground is an easy, happy win. But you are really, I think, in a, I don't even want to say struggle bus, but this is not how you need Brightmarsh to be going. You kind of wanted to come in to just absolutely kick them off of the wall if you were able to start this off. Again, Carnage are a really solid team. I kind of was hoping that we'd see this maybe go by a little faster for them. Not necessarily for the length of the set, but really for them and their competitive nature in Brazil. I also think this showcases that, you know, you can't really count out Fatal Ambition, much like you were saying earlier. The OS Balamansa effect really coming in full, where it's just they're always going to bring a fight to you, whether or not they get the win.
I appreciate everyone sticking with us. We'll get all get the tech issues sorted out and jump right back on in to game number 2, where Fatal Ambition had started off with point number 1. Puppy joins us in the background. Mine is still asleep. I heard the smallest little yap just a moment ago, and I was very nervous, but she immediately fell back asleep. So all thumbs up here on this side. Probably a Fatal Ambition fan, I guess, if we're still asleep. We're happy, although she might want to wake up if she's a Fatal Ambitions fan. Right, she's going to wake up. Maybe the team will have themselves a win. So, Gore, I think you got to rewind there and kind of maybe look at what happened in that mid-fight, because it looked like Carnage Gaming were just going to win that mid, but Fatal Ambition able to slow him down. It's kind of you extend maybe too far without having enough percentage cap to withstand maybe a retake.
I think it was, yeah, that very beginning where they just got really hyper-aggressive and didn't really find anything for it. I mean, you get Scooter as well as Cool both going deep into the back line and then dying. They didn't, like, it wasn't like, oh, they found, like, a bunch of trades. They went 1 for 1 or 2 for 2. They just went back there and died. And there's no other way to code it for you. So, trying to find that same pressure, which so far they've been able to do pretty well here on the defense, but putting it more around the mid-fight, I think, is the key for the next one to maybe go a little more their way.
Poor Groundford had to take the easy way out there as Carnage Gaming complete a sweep here. Always worth looking at the ultimate charges, though, with 50 seconds left. You know, between Crimson and the Buck Wild for Cool, I mean, could get themselves somewhat close to being fully charged for the next mid, so the timing actually might work out pretty well if this one ends up going into overtime, and might be that way. Headed, left unchecked for a little while. Cool has something else in mind, but then RC Soldier on the back end makes it a 2 for 1 for Fatal Ambition. Scooter, maybe not the value he's hoped for out of this ROM up to this point, and a lot of this has been happening locked in with RC and Divino. Now low health for Rochelle and Crimson. Gore is about as an awkward stagger as it goes. Carnage Gaming, they're going to have to defend up against it here. This payload's going to make it close.
Yeah, and it's coming around that last corner, but this is the hard part. Hey, there's an overpower that connects already. All right, I don't care whether or not this wins, you get a 2-0 or not. You've got my heart for this, Divino, so being able to at least find that. That being said, using it here, it kind of exudes confidence for Fatal Ambition. They still haven't made it up the hill. There's still a lot of high ground for Carnage Gaming. That's something that you don't get to see often, especially from a team down in 7th place.
Agreed. This is a good look for Fatal Ambition up to this point. Entropic Breach is going to make its way down. Likely here in just a moment. Scooter, actually just using it as a bit of disengage there, and then we'll soar on down. In the meantime, though, Fatal Ambition have found maybe all the kills they need. Divino has another, but Cool is too far elsewhere. And Fatal Ambition Gore able to roll that one in for the convert. It's, you know, we were excited maybe at Carnage Gaming and their ability to be overall aggressive, like how we're seeing Cool and Z in the replay here. But it's bitten them once or twice so far in this game.
Yeah, again, I think that's the downside of this composition. If you open up even just slightly to a mistake, I think Fatal Ambition have a good draft that is just going to be able to tear you apart, right? And I think that's what Headed's going to be able to do. It's specifically RC Soldier. Zen has been having a great day today. And kind of maybe making me think that, yeah, no, I'm wondering where all the Zen players went, because we know there's a lot of them out there in the scene, especially because last year he was a very prominent pick. And so now him kind of being back on the rise is definitely good. Keep your eyes on him. As of right now, RC Soldier, specifically in this matchup, I think is someone that is going to be more than deserving of some praise if he can keep up this pace.
That's right. Keeping a check on Cool has been important. Fatal Ambition have been able to do so. Remember, Carnage Gaming, though, won almost all of the previous mid-fight, but it was a good counterpunch from Fatal Ambition to get back in. Headed finds the first opening kill onto Cool and Z, but immediately traded out as Scooter on a ground bird. As Ares now battling with Divino shield, but there's too many targets to withstand. Carnage Gaming pick up a big one here on the left-hand side, and it's a double for Rashao. And Ares unfortunately not able to stay alive as Headed had the angle.
These good shots, at least for Carnage, are going to be able to find a zone. Double comeback as well. When you're ever a team that is unfavored in a matchup, having the team that is above and more favored with double comeback is never a good look. They get a kill on a Rachao, making this a 4v5 already, starting things off on the right foot for Fatal Ambition to come in for a retake.
That's tough for Ares. RC Soldier gripped up off to the side. Nice connection on the Scooter. Massive target there. It'd be hard to miss. And makes no mistake is Divino. Now Fatal Ambition on the downhill swing to their third point of the game. A barrage onto Rashao, but the Assert Dominance is going to connect. Couldn't lift his goggles in time there. Entropic Breach soars on through the mid-fight as well. Roopson picks up one. Ares trying desperately to pour out some damage in off to the side. Art Rashao, though, having himself a big turn of the mid-fight here. Ares somehow stays alive, but Groundford finally puts him down. It's Scooter against the world here. The health bar melting down from this ROM.
Jeez.
That's a big seismic crash as well from Groundford to lock in the final target, but Cool is able to get in. He starts the overtime touch, and look at that wall, Gore. That might just do it.
Now, Dave, I'm going to play a little game with you, all right? So it's October, right? Spooky month as it comes
Spooky,
through.
Scary
Halloween
skeletons. Right.
coming around. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a horror story in 5 words.
All right.
Stunned in front of Victor. It's one of the scariest things I can imagine in
Stunned
Paladins.
threw me off there. I was counting with my fingers, and like stunned nearly made me lift too. But you're correct. That's fine.
No, it's
yeah,
not a
you're locked
haiku.
down in
Not
front of
going for the
Victor.
haiku part. Definitely not trying to write haikus mid-cast. I can think of 5 words. I can count on one hand. I can't do the 5-7-5 necessary. But it's just, I see this ROM one of the tankiest and, admittedly, I would argue, at least lore-wise, scariest champions to enter the realm. And he just gets evaporated in front of this Victor because he gets stunned by the seismic crash in no time. You blink and literally miss it because of how much damage that Victor is able to do. I think that's maybe one of the scariest things you could see in-game if you're playing, especially competitively. I think that's a good call from Fatal Ambition having that on their draft. And again, makes me curious about this ROM first pick coming in from Carnage. Maybe overvaluing it a little bit because it definitely seems like Fatal Ambition are more than happy with what they've picked up.
Well, it's the same thing, but separate teams in game number 1. Now we're seeing it another time here. Divino with the battle shout keeps him and a couple of his surrounding team members in the fight just a little bit longer. Fatal Ambition in a brilliant spot here, especially now that the Commander's grab will connect. Scooter, oh no, the stun. It's just a little bit too high here. I don't think he found anyone with that one. Unfortunate for him as the ROM will get tossed back once more. Gore, you have to look at the ultimates for Fatal Ambition in a great spot to win.
I mean, this is just good aggression. RC Soldier able to get in there. And again, this Xin having a good performance. Uses the Spite, though. Seismic Crash is about to be up. The other 3 ultimates available here for Fatal Ambition. And so, again, a lot of good that is still on board for them. And you're coming right around the last corner. You're up 3-0. In my mind, you just go full for it, right? You just force this ult to move as far, or not, sorry, this payload to move as far forward. And if you don't use your ults, well, no. Like, I mean, or if you use all your ults and you don't have them for the next round, cool, you're winning 3-1. Yeah, maybe they get the payload, it goes to 3-2. Maybe they even convert it, it goes to 3-3. But by then you've charged your ults and you're ready for the last mid-fight.
Well, the real story here is you're rounding the final corner, you're ready to go, and then RC Soldier presses pause. We'll get back into game as soon as the pause times out here for Fatal Ambition. Gore, and we say this at least once a set for Fatal Ambition. We're continuing the storyline for this squad, but now we're looking at it from the good point of view, and that at least once a set, it feels like they have a game like this where they just blow the other team out of the water. So you hope it's not the one and only, but it is at least the one from what we've seen up to this point for Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been great for them again, and if you're able to find a 4-0, I mean, the last map you put up a decent fight, maybe not the best, but you were at least able to push it 4-2. If Carnage Gaming can't do the same, that's a great start for you.
All the available ultimates have been swung for Carnage Gaming, so now's the time to find your value. Cool. Gets himself the opening kill here. Rochelle makes his way into the backline, but he does not have assert dominance anymore. 10 seconds left, so Fatal Ambition have the ability to take a deep breath here, and it looks like that's exactly what they'll do. Headed, no chance at forcing his way back in. Carnage Gaming, Gore, they sell the farm for that 1 point on the board. There is a scout available, though Fatal Ambition, only 2 ultimates available, but I think inarguable that a Seismic Crash plus a barrage is just always going to be better than the 1 scout.
Yeah, almost every single time, right? And especially because, as I have to now remember every time I think about it, Scout lost its CC immunity, which is something that, you know, originally I think, well, yeah, maybe the barrage, definitely, but Seismic Crash, at least you can immune it. But that is something that is going to cause a lot of trouble for them. Did you say he's 4-10?
I did say that. Sorry, I had to weaved it in there. Like, maybe that's
no,
why he's
I'm
4-10. He doesn't have CC immunity.
Huh.
Tough game. It's a tough.
I feel like he's been having a way better impact than a 4-10 Cassie, right? Like I'm kind of surprised by that. I think that is way low compared to what I thought. I'm surprised that didn't stand out to me.
The scripts have been flipped here, and where RC Soldier in game 1 went what 4-14 or something, now he is putting together a fantastic performance on the Xin here. Carnage Gaming now need to fight back in with no ultimates available. Soon will be the Ram ult. Cool stunned, but he's on a bit of the fadeaway here. Now Fatal Ambition have used one of 2 pieces of immediate utility. They at least get the kill onto Scooter, so a small win there. Commander's grab cancels out the dash from Rochelle. Now Cool up and over, finds a final shot onto Divino, but this is big for Fatal Ambition. They've regained control of the circle.
And just being able to move in here. Now you expect to get him aggressive. But how aggressive is the question I have, right? Brightmarsh, it's a very fickle map. You could maybe even withstand a little bit more. He'll lock him in the base, get as many dismounts as he can. Headed, though, playing it safe. And I think all of them on Fatal Ambition playing it safe. They still have an 80% lead here. I guess technically 50% lead on the point that they're more in control of. And a free kill onto Scooter. Nice.
That's a good battle shout. Groundford unable to stay alive, though. Rochelle has found 1. But look at this from Divino. RC Soldier puts up the counter and stays alive as well. It's a double for RC Soldier, and that might just be the final straw here. Through time and space soars through, but only finds the victory screen for Fatal Ambition. We are tied up at 1 apiece.
I think I have to give it to RC Soldier there. I think a lot of what happens in that game is on the back of that Xin, but there's also a lot of credit to be said for that Con. I was really shaky about it, Dave, going in, because I've seen one not do well today. And he ends up 6-6-21. Good ults coming down from him. Good healing, I anticipate we'll see. Maybe nowhere near what you expect to see out of like Genos and the Corvus, but still enough that it's going to make a big difference. And where do you want to look? 16-5-12, the 22-8-11. Headed's damage is probably going to be out of the roof. And unfortunately, I know where a lot of it ended up. Scooter, more often than not, I saw on the receiving end of that. And yeah, 134,000 damage.
Yeah, please.
It's very solid. Plus that 14k healing. Again, not a high number, but enough to sprinkle it out. I mean, you want to factor that in. That's a third of Cool's damage that just was all of a sudden negligible, that you didn't have to worry about if you were on the side of Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, and if you take Cool off the table, I mean, Ares is left with 90,000. I mean, a lot, I think, to look at there if you're Carnage Gaming. Again, though, I think the struggles for this ROM continue. I was concerned that Fatal Ambition took the Corvus instead of the Genos, one of the potential counters to that ROM, but it looks like Fatal Ambition had the answers effectively the entire time there, Gore, and sometimes the only answer to a big health pool isn't in utility and CC, it's just good old-fashioned damage, and this Zen definitely hit its mark in that department.
I mean, definitely able to do so more often than not. I think early rounds got to shine a little bit brighter. Even here, was able to do a lot for him. It's been these spites, I think, that are winning me over today. These teams specifically are able to find them in these really good positions. We've seen a lot of them that have been right onto what I would argue is the perfect target. And for Xin, of course, that's always going to be crucial in being able to find those picks. For Victor, I think this is what it is. I mean, you're looking at a guy, he's a quarterback in the pocket, right? He's just sitting back there. No one's touching him. No one can get to him because Khan is keeping him safe. If anyone gets back there, then you're in trouble and you're talking to your front lines. But for the most part, he was just free-firing.
All right, Fish Market, Gore, for map 3 here. We've got Ice Mines, Bright Marsh, Fish Market. What a weird dude. So do I. I feel like it's Kresnik. Every time I cast with Kresnik, he always wonders why I love this. It's just so unconventional. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like it's a weird enough map. I think.
Yes.
It's just so fun to watch. So I'm very excited to see it here. You know, it's a map where we haven't seen the sniper priorities today, but this map kind of screams to me sort of a game of chicken almost, where either you're banning it if you're second pick here, if one of the two gets banned, and if one team picks one, you almost have to, because a map like this, that range advantage just so important, especially on the pushes and on the defense. But Gore, getting a sustainable point tank also important because of the way the point fight goes.
Yeah, this is the interesting one where, man, it's been a weird phase, because I was going to say Io is one of the most important, champions to have on this map, but she's been competitively banned for so long that it's easy to forget about the fact that she's been just outright winning everything else anyway. And so maybe leave her to the wayside just because she's not allowed to be in the conversation. If this was in that meta, then forget about it. It's whoever gets Io is going to win, right? But now you have to go forward with it, like you said. Do you want to go Barrick? Do you want Inara? I think Inara is still really solid here. You had highlighted range. I didn't think it was going to be highlighted to the point where even Leon was going to be getting banned. But, I mean, that just goes to show what's important on this map. Even Kinessa Strix, I think, are not only ban-worthy, but definitely top pick-worthy in this map. Maybe not your first pick, though, as Genos is still available. Well, don't make me eat my words almost immediately. They will go for the Strix top pick first, #1 in the draft.
Well, luckily Fatal Ambition, especially if they want to answer back with the Kinessa, which I imagine they would here at this point, having a Strix and no Leon, is still a Victor around, is still Vivian around. Rom has just not been doing it so far this set, but maybe still important enough here on Fish Market that warrants that first overall pick. Before we jump to him, sort of my final thought is, maybe Fatal Ambition here can wait a little longer to draft that Kinessa, get some of those other power picks online, unless Carnage Gaming want to go double sniper, which I doubt they would. But Rom continued to be arguably the highest priority point tank in the set.
I mean, yeah, picked up a lot. Again, I think on this map he can do a lot for the team as well. You're looking at disruption. He doesn't have to fight a lot on the objective. He can definitely help your team in terms of pushing on the side. And you have to think back, even without Io, go to last year. What are Envy, Na'Vi, the teams that are maybe successful on Fish Market? Actually, I think Envy was always successful. Na'Vi were the ones who were always not successful on this map. What are they doing to make it look good? And it was double off-tank and then, 2 DPS, usually a Genos, so I guess Corvus could slot into there as well. But, a good healer. Genos, definitely the one that you would want in the 2. So far, Carnage are at least winning my vote, right? You get Strix, 1 long range. You get Andros, someone who can dive deep in there. Genos, to boost them up. I wouldn't mind seeing, depending on what Fatal Ambition pick up, something like an Ashe Inara maybe to close out Carnage Gaming. They could even just switch to a triple DPS, and honestly, I would like Ashe plus a DPS more than I think I'd like Inara on this map.
What a world we're in where Furia is the pick that raises my eyebrow. She was the healer meta for a long time there, at least in the PPL last year. 3% pick rate, 0% win rate over here in the PPC over in Brazil. Do you think Furia hits those marks that Fatal Ambition might be looking for here? Inflame is always going to be very good, but then the consistent healing is maybe where that question goes.
It does come down to what talent they're running. I feel like I've seen a lot of Beam Furias in the last month, like when we've watched it competitively, which always is on the fence. That's just one of those picks that she needs constant communication. I mean, it has to be on point. Everybody has to be firing on the exact same cylinders, right? And it has to be in the same mindset. So I'm wondering if they're still going to be going for like the beam heal or what talent they'll be choosing. Otherwise, it is a lot like what you say, right? Where, hey, Fatal Ambition, theoretically, they have at least a do not lose button, right, in the Inflame. Maybe even a win button in the Inflame, but it only comes up every so often. I expect there's still going to be a lot of morale boost. Again, she's got really good peaks, but really low valleys, so she's got a very, I guess just bouncy chart that comes through. A lot of pressure on her to perform, but the Zen, the Cassie, the Kinessa, all of which we've seen be successful, Zen most recently so on that last map, Fatal Ambition, have their abilities. I just don't know. I like Strix Andro Vivian a little bit more in every single class.
Yeah, I've got a thumbs up across the board for all of those. Fernando, I think Immortal's going to be great here at keeping him alive on that point with how much some of the damage rolls down. I think Fatal Ambition, I mean, we're not even looking at just Furia here. I think the entire team has kind of a bouncy-looking graph when it comes to the value that they're trying to find. An Inflame, a Scout likely popped at similar times to one another. The ROM ultimate can be used there as well. I mean, Fatal Ambition, they're going to be winning these fights when their ultimates are up. It's in the downtime that's going to be important. Big 4-0 for Fatal Ambition in game number 2 to tie up this set. Now Carnage Gaming will take us on to Fish Market. The big question, though, Gore, when there's only one sniper is, how do you deal with him, who dives in there onto the back line. But something that we started to see not quite as much as previously is who wins these one-on-one battles between the two snipers. Used to be Strix, he can stealth, but now Kinessa, good mobility with the teleporter as well. It's going to be a fun battle to watch.
Yeah, and Kinessa, again, I'd have to check the loadout as to whether or not she's running it, but has the ability of revealing you, at least for a little bit, so maybe able to track cool there if he goes into the stealth. So there's always a little bit of the question, I think, of what they're going to be able to come through. And you can already see, actually running True Grit more than anything. That's the first one I see. Also that open season being able to generate a couple of ammo for you. But I'm kind of surprised to see this, but this is something that is saying, hey, in the sniper battle, if you hit me, I hit you. I'm still coming out of the net positive because I'm getting that healing. It's still going to be, let's say, interesting to see how it works through. This is something that Rainde at the very end was talking a lot about. He loved True Grit, but we never got to see it. Now it's finally the time.
Well, both snipers find their mark early on here in this game, but a bit of a roundabout fight here. Cool will strike for the second time. Watch out for Rashao. He's left unchecked here. A double kill for the Vivian, as you'd expect. And he's going to do a little point capture of his own as well. He'll walk back, but so will Divino here. Fatal Ambition, Gore, they'd kind of pushed into Carnage Gaming's side of the map there, and does not pay off at the beginning.
No, and now it leaves Carnage in a good position where specifically Rachao is able to get aggressive, find a lot of good hit scan damage, and also just hold any angles they might need in order to lock down and dismount Fatal Ambition. I'm actually surprised to see him fall back as fast as he did. But at the same time, with the damage output he has, I think he's just trying to play it safe because there's no one, it seems like, on Fatal Ambition that can really withstand the onslaught.
We got positioning from Rashao just off to the side, stays alive. Roopson does as well, though. Forces Scooter on over. Cool now on a 6 streak here to start off game number 1, or point capture number 1, excuse me. So Fatal Ambition held at bay for just enough time. Carnage Gaming strike first.
And being able to get themselves not only ahead, but I mean, look at the ult. So you got Flashbang available. That's one thing to be said. But Sentinel's almost up. Accursed Arm almost up. The DPS are definitely doing their jobs here as they're able to charge their ults faster than literally anybody else in the lobby. And that is always going to be eye-opening, especially on Fish Market. It's contested right now in terms of the payload moving forward, but I anticipate that not lasting too long. Honestly, this is one of those rounds that I can see these ults making the big difference around this next corner, specifically where you see Rachao looking, because that's where the choke point is, right? It's not necessarily as grounded as you would see in some of the other maps where there's an archway that forces you to kind of collapse in as a team, but this little corner that goes and starts turning towards the uphill battle that becomes the push really is one of the most difficult to get by, and I think an Accursed Arm, especially one that finds a kill or two, is easily going to be able to open up the avenue for success for Carnage.
I love the regroup here from Carnage Gaming as well. They were pretty staggered out there for just a moment, but the delay enough. Oh my god, is that a triple kill on the through time and space from Crimson? You don't see that often, but you just saw it here. Carnage Gaming, they catch lightning in a bottle, and Fatal Ambition fall by the wayside. What a play.
And you get to see one of my favorite things in Paladins. Again, like you said, you don't get to see it often, but it's the aftermath of the fact. When you look up and you look at the cooldown timers, the respawn timers, and they're all in sync because they just got eviscerated by a shot. I mean, that's beautifully done by Crimson. Well aimed as well. And I think just goes to show that the more willing you are to throw out your ults, which, by the way, they threw out all of them, save for the Immortal, I think the better it is.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's just... You can't ask for anything more than that. That is a gift from whatever deity you pray to at that point, right? If you're Carnage Gaming, you are more than happy. Praise Odin or what be you to bring that one towards you, because that was just gorgeous.
That's nuts. That is nuts. You know, there's obviously some communication going on there. Crimson knows that 3 of them are off to the side, but make no mistake that that's just pure timing there for Crimson, and they all happen to line up in a 3-man strike for Carnage Gaming. Now it carries some of that momentum into the next mid-fight. Definitely some of the potential that Fish Market brings. Quick, sweeping type games, and Carnage Gaming answer back to a game 2 loss very well. Here's the Inflame. This is where Fatal Ambition should be winning their fights, but look at the Immortal here, draws so much attention right off the bat. And the counter punch is there, but Fatal Ambition have that 1 extra kill. Cool still alive in the back, a double as well for the Strix. Divino's going to melt down some of that health bar, but not enough. Gore, that was the fight for Fatal Ambition, and they weren't able to cleanly win it.
I mean, now you've got the respawns coming through. You get rid of Rachao, but that's kind of I don't know, a consolation prize, right? Everybody else on Carnage has respawned and moved in. Plus, they've got, albeit it's only 18%, but still more point capture than what you have on Fatal Ambition. And so you have to come back into this and just figure out what you want to do. I mean, like you said, that's the fight. That is your win button. That is your I should not lose this, and yet they still were able to get a couple of kills because of how disjointed the fight was from Fatal Ambition. Even now, they're just systematically eliminating them. So it feels good if you're a Carnage Gaming fan. For Fatal Ambition, I don't know, rewind, go back to the Inflame, and then just I group up a little bit better for the fight.
It's the game of triple kills apparently here for Carnage Gaming. Ares adds a triple of his own. Now Fatal Ambition really one final chance to get back in here. RC Soldier, a performance to remember in Game 2 and to forget through 3 points here in Game 3. Could just get worse, and Scooter will finally put down the Xin in behind him. Cursed Arm from Ares, though. A rare stumble from Carnage Gaming. Scooter's able to pull back 1, but an earlier push here, Gore, from Fatal Ambition will help him out on the defensive end.
And already being able to buy at least a little bit of time. I mean, look at that. That 2.5-minute timer is already sitting at 2 minutes. That's 30 seconds gone that you don't have to worry about. Unfortunately, there's still 2 minutes there for Carnage Gaming, and that is scary when you give them any sort of leeway to work with, especially when these shots have been so on point for Cool. I mean, this Strix has been hitting pretty much exactly the spot you need it to. I think everyone else is having a stellar performance, but I think Cool has been the saving grace. Even in the last fight when we were talking about the Inflame, it was Cool who finds a lot of those kills that really helps equalize the playing field, and it keeps a lot of that pressure going as well. And you're going to need it because that Inflame's coming back up. Nice. That's another way for Fatal Ambition to stay alive.
Well, Ares just breaks the ankles of Divino, dashes one way, back to the other, over towards the rest of his team. Cart starting to move its way in. Avoid grip up is finally going to get rid of Divino. Carnage Gaming, though, that's just a retake here from them. Through time and space is not going to find you a triple kill this time around. I say that, and likely end up doing it here. So Carnage Gaming have got to find a way to get it done without the help of a 3-man kill from their support.
Well, I have good news for them, and that is that they've been doing it pretty well without the 3-man ult from their support the rest of the game, and so maybe that's not going to happen. Although, I will say Fish Market, I feel like I see more teams line up on this map than any other map. There's no statistic, as Pretty Hair used to call it, the nictistics there that come through, where I have no actual grounding in that. It's just, it feels like that always seems to happen. And I think this is just one of those maps that you might still get to see another, at least 1 to 2-man ult come down from the Genos if he's willing to throw it out, because there's just almost always, it feels like 2 in a row.
Well, Fatal Ambition have done the majority of what they need to extend this game out a little bit further. 15 seconds left on the cart push here.
9.
You can already see the way they're positioning just off to the side. You get 3 on one, that means you got to get 0 on the other just to balance things out. Cool eats the first shot, but look at the Immortals here from Carnage Gaming. Carnage want to go, but they haven't gotten the kills yet. A 2-for-1 trade on the back end. Now Headed is going to have to peek off to this side here. Scooter holding up that shield, ushering this card on in. Crimson supplies a little extra damage. There's only squishies left alive for Fatal Ambition, and they've got to work their way in. What a push from Carnage Gaming. They take a 2-1 lead.
And I will say, at least for me, a 4-0 on Fish Market, in my mind, weighs a little more than a 4-0 on Bright Marsh. I think Bright Marsh, along with like Frog Isle, maybe even Stone Keep to an extent, are the ones that are maybe a slight and just smidge easier to get those 4-0s rolling in on. Fish Market is normally one, especially depending on the two teams, that you can see go 7 points. Finally, though, we get to see somebody kind of clap back there, and I think Carnage Gaming answer that exactly the way they need to. Cool.
Right.
I think appropriately highlighted earlier, and appropriately highlighted again right here. 10-3 and 10 is a huge reason that they do not end up having that game go very much longer. Roopson had a really good ult where they came through. Granted, I did say it was a disjointed fight, and I do still think it was a little bit of a disjointed fight, but Cool was the real reason that things didn't end up just going so heavily in favor of Fatal Ambition. While they're finding kills during that Inflame, Cool is killing anybody and everybody that stands in his way. He's making sure that it comes up even. It was 3 kills for like 1, and then it was 3 kills for 2, and then it ended up being 3 kills for 3, and he still maintained that pressure. And then you add in moments of flavor like that from Crimson, and it just becomes super easy for you.
What I'd give to hear team comms in a moment like that. Although I imagine there'd not be a lot decipherable, just a whole lot of screaming going on.
Yeah.
Telling your team to regroup and push things
Mike's
in. Ares finds a triple kill. Yeah, right. Ares gets a triple kill later on in the game here. A lot of final caps being sent on in, but a triple kill nonetheless. And Gore, the hot and cold streak for RC Soldier continues. You know, it's a tough game 1 on the Bomb King, fantastic on Xin on Bright Marsh, now back to 1-9 on the Xin here on Fish Market. Difficult day for him.
That means, though, look, pattern. Down in game 1,
That's
up
right.
in game 2, down in game 3, up in game 4? That's like the question I think they have to answer, right? This is one of those moments, though, where I could very easily see Fatal Ambition came through and played well on Bright Marsh, and unless they get a map that's similar to that, easy to 4-0 on, maybe this just ends in the 4th map with Carnage Gaming having a very dominating performance there on Fish Market.
Very important question, Gore, and one that will be answered right after this break. Stick around.
Talk to me honestly. I'm here. I'm here. Talk to me. I'm here.
quick break, and we are right back into it. Carnage Gaming answered a brutal Game 2 loss score with a brutal Game 3 win of their own. So the momentum, I think, rests firmly on their shoulders moving forward.
Yeah, and Carnage should have the momentum that rests on their shoulders, right? Like, it shouldn't just be, hey, you won the last game. I think it should just be in your favor. I mean, 4-2,
Nice.
you lose 4-1, you win 4-0. And I'm happy we get to see this. I haven't seen a good Frog Isle map.
Gore,
in
you
a
and I got
hot
great
minute.
maps today. We got fantastic
Yeah.
maps. We go from
Yeah, we did.
Ice Mines to Bright Marsh, Fish Market. Now, I'm neutral on Ice Mines. I think if you replace Ice Mines with like a Bazaar or a Shattered Desert, we're talking like ideal status, I think, for maps that I get to watch on any given set. But Frog Isle, definitely right up there as far as fun maps to watch. And we thought that snipers were important on Fish Market. I think they carry a similar weight here on Frog Isle.
See, now I'm thinking of all the maps that I would want. And I'm feeling like Timber Mill, Frozen Guard are up there just because we never get to see them. But
For real?
lo and behold, I think they're not in the map pool right now, so that's probably
right.
where that falls through. That being said, though, this map, hey, I said if you're Fatal Ambition, you need something that you can easily find a 4-0 on. This is a map you can easily find a 4-0 on. The bad news that comes with that, like the grain of salt you always have to take with that, is that if you can find a 4-0, guess who else can? And it's going to be
Right.
Carnage Gaming. And that's someone that you have to worry about, I think, coming into this. I'm also interested to see the bans, because already there's a Maeve Strix down there. I feel like Kinessa could be up there. Frog Isle is really, really pressured on the DPS. This is one where I think if Zin gets picked up for Fatal Ambition, he could have another big game.
Carnage Gaming might have to ban the Kinessa here if they don't want Fatal Ambition to get the one and only sniper still available. Leon has been kind of an answer to some of that long-range damage as well, so that's something still can find some decent counterplay with some of those snipers. So interested to see where Carnage Gaming go with their second ban. Atlas takes a seat, definitely strong here on Frog Isle. Any off-tank that can find that long range or that high of damage from that far away, as well as fighting in your face, is always going to be good. And no surprise, I think, Gore, leaving that Kinessa open, just too big a risk to let Fatal Ambition have that one sniper here on Frog Isle.
Yeah, that's the downside, right? When you ban one sniper, if you're not prepared to either see the other side ban the sniper or you're not prepared to then double ban them, they're just going to first pick it and have an advantage over you. Now, this is where the interesting discussion of supports gets to come in, though, and this is something I'm really happy about because I think this is where, you'll look at Corvus and he's a really great support. He's someone you love to have on your team and I think is going to be good for your squad. But I like Genos on this map a little bit better. I think I might just like Genos better. Maybe that's just me. Maybe there's something I'm missing that comes to it. But guess what? They get to lock in Victor Genos. Am I complaining about this on Carnage? Absolutely not. You're going to win the game off of those two picks alone, it feels like.
You don't need to
Whoa.
grab your Genos yet.
Yeah,
but
that's
we're
right.
we're assuming they're going to get their Genos, but just at a later date here because
I hope so.
I mean, Fatal Ambition. We've seen we have seen
Corvus?
think Corvus Genos compositions. I think that's happened. Maybe
Binary
once or
Star
twice.
Genos. I'm feeling it now, Dave.
It'd be wild. I don't know if it works out for Fatal Ambition. Carnage Gaming have a little bit of time to lock in that pick if need be. Gore, it seems like RC Soldier on the Zin now is going to be a roll of the dice for Fatal Ambition, and that's a bet they're willing to take on Frog Isle. We've seen the high of highs and some of the low of lows, I think, so far out of this pick. So, interesting, I think, that Fatal Ambition go right on back into it. All right, Gore has some dice for
So
us.
what
This is
die?
perfect.
What die are we rolling? Like, do we want to?
Don't you have a good DM
20s
versus a
or?
bad D20? We'll do a performance check.
Ooh, that's a
on
lot.
Zin.
I forgot I had so
Give
many
me
in
give me
here.
a 1d20 performance check for
All right, but you got to choose
RC
the
Soldier.
color. I'm gonna use this one.
Yeah, that one.
All right, let's see. That's a 2. All right, it's gonna be a bad game, man. It doesn't get much better than that, or
Hey,
worse than that. That's
Dice don't
unfortunate.
lie. I mean, the DC,
The
I
dice
think,
don't
on
lie.
that one, I had it like
Now I
a
have to put all
12,
these
so not even close, unfortunately, there. So, sorry, Fatal Ambition, unfortunately not going to work out here on Frog Isle. Rom and Con, though, if we're sinking our teeth into some actual analysis, that's a good 1-2 punch from Carnage Gaming as far as off-tanks go. Rom, of course, very difficult to kill, and no map score, maybe not any in the game, where you can get as consistent overpower insta-kills as maybe here on Frog Isle. So if those ultimates are connecting, those kills definitely coming through.
Are you saying a literal roll of the dice isn't analytical enough? I mean, chat, look, I can't tell you, but
Gore,
fate wills it to be a 2 performance here.
Your family is
I
safe.
die. we're playing our D&D campaign, and I nearly died of like poisonous frogs in our like second campaign. There's no analysis there. I rolled a 1 and slipped on a bridge.
Should have rolled 20. There's my analysis right there. See, should have just rolled better.
You're right, my fault. The dice don't lie, and I deserve to die to some poisonous frogs in our second session or whatever. I'm still alive though, in case anyone at home is invested.
Not
in
only
this
that,
one.
but in my eyes, the protagonist. At least
Yeah,
that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm a side character in a story that I'm a part of. I feel like I'm a side character.
I think we leave out a good bit of the relationships that my character has been forming over the last couple of episodes. We'll jump back into the round out of the picks and bans here, though, for Fatal Ambition Carnage Gaming game number 4. Frog Isle is still our map. We have to recap these things when we go too far off the rails. Score Vivian and Terminus, the final 2 picks for Fatal Ambition. Very strong outpouring of damage, I think, in those final 2. The reanimate going to be very important.
I think so, but I also think there's a lot of damage. You know, with Vivian being picked up by Fatal Ambition, I think that's a big win for them, just because it keeps a lot on their side. If Vivian was on the other squad, especially with the Genos there, then you're already scraping for damage. That Inara Terminus not going to live too long. But you get Rom, you get Khan. That's a lot of easy control right there. Khan specifically, maybe the first round doesn't go your way because of the Inara Terminus. But guess what? Second round, you only got to deal with one of them, and I know which one I throw off the map every time. It's going to be that Inara. She can't get back on. She can't immune it too easily, and so that makes the big difference for them. I like the call here. But I just like the aggressive tanks, I think, on the side of Carnage a little bit better.
Right, it seems like staying power versus offensive power is the way to look at both of the tank pools here. Of course, Fatal Ambition, a little extra staying power. Carnage Gaming, a little extra offensive power. And then you got the Genos on the back end of it as well. Gore, I am very excited and very happy that now the Androxus has made his way on through. Ares very good here on this pick, a pick that we hadn't, or that he played, on Fish Market, had a good game on that one. I think even has a higher chance to succeed here on Frog Isle.
Yeah, this is a good map for an Andro, and guess what? The only other person who I think has a good time on this map that can be up in the skies, like Willow could, Drogoz could, but you got someone who's hit scan, Accursed Arms, a great ult, and he's already had a great performance already on this, like you said, today. So you get him on something comfortable. But again, this first round, I think, is going to be a little awkward just because Terminus and Nara are going to have a lot of power early on. It's all about getting the kills on the side, and they've already started off great.
Gore, the dice don't lie. RC Soldier takes a tumble for the first blood here in this game. Now Divino pinned between 3. What a weird fight there from Fatal Ambition. They do build up 51% on the point, but they lose RC Soldier and then just kind of leave Divino out to dry. And now look at the push from Carnage Gaming. They found another kill onto Headed. Cool is not even being looked at all. One final burst would have gotten it done onto Rubson, but the mobility of the Corvus enough to keep him alive just for a little bit longer. This feels a bit disjointed, admittedly, Gore, from Fatal Ambition. Carnage Gaming have kind of rolled as one composition up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, being able to stay alive right there, actually big from RC Soldier, just hanging out in jungle.
Oh, nice.
But it's only doing so much for him because he's been sitting down there waiting for his health to come back for the perpetual last 30 seconds, 40 seconds. I mean, it feels like every time he had the opportunity to poke out, a grenade found its way in there and just kept him locked down. Now even forced to spite back over just to try and stay on the mid. I don't know, it feels like a lot of maybe even ults just being invested to try and stay alive on the side of Fatal Ambition now. A lot of defensive play from them, more than anything that you can see them getting aggressive.
Oh man, it's Headed staying alive, and now a couple of kills in for Fatal Ambition, including a double kill for Divino. Everything was coming up Carnage Gaming, but now Divino adding a third here in this fight. Fatal Ambition, Gore, I can't believe it. They've captured the point here after Carnage Gaming maybe overstay.
Man, but how are you going to do that? How are you going to help be the reason your team wins part of the fight and then you miss the wall to get up on the high ground and then have to do the walk of shame up the ramp on the side? Either way, like you said, a really good Inara play, but more or less expected, right? I mean, RC Soldier is kind of off and on here, finally getting a kill, so he's able to find a good performance there. Another good shot there from Crimson, though, just lining him up. But it's this early portion where you have two tanks that are just going to outperform Rom Khan at the very beginning. I think Rom and Khan are both very ult-dependent and oriented, that they're both going to be able to make a big splash in the next round. maybe they take a little bit of a weight there in the first round because of it. I think this next one, specifically how it starts in here for Rachao, is probably the most important factor in round number 2. And I know I'm already getting maybe a little ahead of myself talking about round 2, but I don't think it matters how the rest of this goes. It could be a 2-0 or a 1-1. I still think that's really the factor that's worth looking into. It's more the future. For right now, if you're Fatal Ambition, it's trying to figure out how to get back. Again, this is a 4-0-able map, but you have to have a lot of pressure, and you have to be willing to kind of take the ebb and flow. Sometimes you get knocked back to your base, and then in 2 seconds you're standing at their base all of a sudden. So you have to be, I think, aware that, yeah, you're going to have to take a small break. But if Zen can come back and smack hard, you'll be fine.
After a quick pause, right back into game we go. There's Crimson that again bought some good space for Carnage Gaming, and now Rachao is going to do it with the overpower. Easy as you like. But now you pulled in the guy who's got Reanimate. A Battle Shout immunes all the damage for Rachao, and then Rom Ultimate rather rumbles on in from the other side. Cool has found the kill on a Groundford, so a nice couple of kills there for Carnage Gaming, and the Reanimate won't really find much. Rachao works his way in yet again. A winning fight for Carnage Gaming, despite maybe the questionable choice of pulling in that Terminus.
I mean, you know, questionable. They pull him in, they get the kill, they kill him again, but they
Maybe
use a lot of ults in the process too. I mean, yeah, I guess it's good. I'm always for getting rid of a Reanimate. If he doesn't have that, and there's no way a Terminus, even in 50 seconds, is going to be able to fully charge that for the next round. I do just question using their own ults, although, I mean, both in the 40s there for the ROM and the Con here, so I guess at the end of the day, it's still feeling like a little bit of a positive for them overall, buying them time and making sure that it shuts down where they need to.
Wow, Crimson just kind of left on an island on himself as Divino stuck around onto the cart. Scooter does end up falling here. Couple of kills from RC Soldier. Fatal Ambition in a great position here to maybe convert, give themselves the early 2-0 lead, exactly as we wanted to see. Dice be damned, RC Soldier hits a spite here onto Cool, and I'm not sure Carnage Gaming have the legwork to keep this one at bay any longer. You don't have your Victor in the backline. Now a Seismic Crash is going to drop down, just stuns down one. Scooter will fall, but Fatal Ambition, they paid with a lot of ultimates here, but look at the overtime touches. They're starting to roll through here. Cool. Back alive, this Victor has got to do huge damage. Divino back behind the cart, not able to do it. Groundford finds 2, and Fatal Ambition force it in.
Like you said, they use a few ults on both sides, I think, to make sure that one goes in. Sentinels were used as well as Corvus ult. Seismic Crash is in Spite, so they're not going to have anything on the side of Fatal Ambition going into this next round that I think helped them around not only the end of Point Fight 1 there, but also throughout all of that push. But I do think you have to worry about this on the other side. Yeah, Ares doesn't have the Accursed Arm. Crimson won't have the through time and space. But they're about to have overpower. They're about to have a nice wide cone stun from Scooter if he's able to land it. And Cool has that barrage available. A lot of damage and a lot of kill potential available there for Carnage Gaming at the very beginning. Plus comeback mechanic. I don't know. I feel like I am, coming at this in a way that is casting Fatal Ambition in a bad light. But it's just because they don't have as many tools to work with coming into this fight, especially when you factor in double comeback. It just feels like this one should be Carnage Gaming through and through.
Right, timing very important here in this game. A lot of those big cauterized numbers starting to build up for Carnage as well. Scooter is going to use the Juggernaut and run his way in. You got to be careful letting a ROM roll 3 here when you're this close to the edge. He'll knock you off there if given the chance. Groundford killed off, but uses the Reanimate, the turn and stun. Not great, admittedly, from Scooter there, but it doesn't matter.
That wall's not going anywhere.
Winning the rest of the fight. Yeah, that's one wall you can't break here. But look at the way that Cool has locked down the rest of Fatal Ambition. A triple kill for the Victor gives Carnage the advantage.
And again, lock down where it's necessary. Maybe sometimes you ult and realize that there's not much you can do with it. And so you're just turning to try and figure out where you can go afterward. And even though, again, that wall, it's not going anywhere. It's stunned there. It's stuck forever, in fact, by this ROM. But it gives them the pressure they need. And look at this, I mean, captured before Terminus can even touch.
That's right, fantastic for Carnage Gaming, and now Fatal Ambition have kind of overextended trying to get that overtime touch. Carnage Gaming can keep this cart rolling, which is so dangerous here on Frog Isle. Headed does end up going down, Groundford will as well. A double kill from Cool, could be a final third tap here, but Divino will fall to Rachao. Almost perfectly played for Carnage Gaming to keep that momentum rolling right on the back end of the cap.
And now, Dave, you got to look at it. Pressure's on. You're going to have a couple of ults already recharging. 50%'s there for Carnage Gaming on 2 of them, but you know Victor's ult charges back faster than pretty much anything that you could imagine. And you have that through time and space. Crimson's been hitting a lot of these shots, and he finds another one on top of it. I mean, that's just good looks for the team.
I mean, he's rolling nat 20s every single. No, the nat 20 was the triple kill. That's just you passed the check and you found some kills now through and through in this one. If you're Crimson, Fatal Ambition in a horrible spot to move out and get the overtime touch, especially if Scooter is going to be able to find some small body blocks in. RC Soldier not able to get the kill, but does lock in some damage onto Cool. The Headed follows up with one of his own. A double kill now for the Vivian, who's been knocked down onto the low ground. Fatal Ambition, despite being on the back foot for largely this entire payload push, they're going to keep this one at bay. But Gore, this feels like a round-ending fight, and it's not. There's still a minute left.
Still a minute left, and I'll admit, there were like 4 times that if I were playing ROM here, I would have ulted because it felt like it would have been good, but there would have been no follow-up, so you would have been like, man, where was the team? And so I'm glad Carnage held onto it, even though it would have been very, very tempting to just go ahead and throw that ult out anyway. Still a lot of positioning that could lead them to that. I mean, look at where they're grouped up on the side of Fatal Ambition. It leaves them, well, I would say, in a pretty good spot to get rid of Scooter, or to get Scooter in there and have him lock him down, but he is gone now. Same thing with Cool. This is a good fight for Fatal Ambition.
Fatal Ambition on the verge of going up 3-1 here on Frog Isle. Be careful, though. They overextended, trying to get the overtime touch, and nearly gave the round over to Carnage Gaming. Do not make the same mistake here on the defensive push. Unable to get the kill onto Ares until now. Divino snipes him out of the sky, and with 8 seconds left, Fatal Ambition looking at point number 3. There will be an overtime touch here, but Rochelle goes down. Scooter will as well. Fatal Ambition, they find their 3rd point and could push us to a map 5 with one more.
This is a good spot to be in, even on Frog Isle. Again, I have to highlight what you saw last round was coming in with, 3 solid ults on the side of Carnage Gaming. They're about to have 5 up for this one. And then last round, Fatal Ambition had a whopping 1 coming into that fight, right? So now they're in a much better position. You've got Reanimate, you've got Seismic Crash, you've got the Sentinels ready to come out whenever you need them, and Roopson with a nice giant slow field in the Entropic Breach. That just is a nice area of denial when it comes down to it for Fatal Ambition. And so there's so much better team fight potential because of all of that. I mean, everything lines up. The worst case scenario, though, again, Carnage Gaming, double comeback on a map that, in the blink of an eye, things can change. To see if they can hold on to it. I'm putting pressure, I think, more onto Ares than Cool here to maybe have the big pop-off moment for the team.
Okay, I don't think Cool has felt all that much pressure throughout this game. Has big kill numbers, low death numbers up to this point, so Fatal Ambition now working their way in. Barrage has to get canceled early. Groundford sort of just walking at Cool NZ, and Entropic Breach sounds off in the background of this fight as Divino falls as the first casualty, and Groundford not able to find the same pushing power he was maybe hoping for. Cool NZ turns around the damage there, and Carnage Gaming now lock in a fast cap 66%.
I mean, this is the downside of the other half of this, right? You get to come through and, well, if you're not on that objective literally the whole time for Fatal Ambition, then it just disappears faster than you can blink. Ares gets a double kill as well. I mean, that's a great way to seal the deal.
About as good as it gets as far as the Accursed Arm goes, and now Groundford is going to fall to the triple kill of Rochelle. It seems like this Carnage Gaming team made up of individual guys who can make those big plays. Gore, we were talking Ares or Cool NZ, and it's really Rochelle down the stretch with the triple kill who turns things around. Now an important push, and look at the way Fatal Ambition positioning. Though I suppose you can't really give up or let go much more on this map, probably to be expected right where they are on the defensive stance.
I mean, this is well played, I think, from Fatal Ambition to get aggressive, but they have to be wary here. You want to pull out ults from Carnage Gaming, as many as possible, and make sure they're low when the round ends. Granted, that's 2 minutes from now that you have to worry about this, but they're going to charge and be used throughout all of that. If you're Carnage, there's also that weight, Dave, that comes through of, man, we really want to make sure we have our ults for a 3-3 mid fight, which is, what we're shooting for here if we can get the conversion. but we also kind of want to use them a little bit to get that conversion. So where is that silver line, right? What do you use and what is it worth in order to make sure you lock them down?
Granford thought he had a free kill there, but it's anything but, as he's now playing Ring Around the Rosie with Rochelle, and Rochelle wins that one. So the cart's going to continue to roll forward. Granford had to reanimate, but obviously more important times ahead to save that ultimate 4. The barrage was canceled earlier on the mid-fight. Soon to be charged up by Kulinzi as well. Much more consistent. Very weird that Carnage Gaming kind of had that one fantastic push at the beginning of last round, and as close as that cart got, they were never really able to turn things around. RC Soldier baits the trap with the spite and ends up helping Granford get the kill onto Ares, but watch out, Divino has fallen as well. Scooter gets a kill onto Headed. You find one trade over here on this side if you're Fatal Ambition, but everywhere else is coming up Carnage.
And now it's the question of, can you kill these tanks? I mean, Khan is difficult to burn through that shield and the health bar. We go to the back line. I like this call from RC Soldier again. Wherever it hits, it's going to be working out for him. It's been very hit or miss for this Zen. But so far, he's been on a good streak this game, but you're losing your tanks in the same process.
So Granford holds on to the reanimate. As far as like total tile movage, the reanimate right next to his spawn. So if you can just hold out a few seconds, definitely not worth using that one. Whereas you might on something like Ice Mines if the distance is a little further. Divino stays alive, but Ares can dive in there and get the kill. Unfortunately, enough damage turned around that he won't be able to do so. RC Soldier low as well. Rubson, a puzzle every moment in this game. So many members of Fatal Ambition falling lower and lower and lower, but Rubson is keeping alive. But you can't say the same for RC Soldier at the end of the day. Ares picks up that one. Reversal around to the corner. Divino gets the kill onto Crimson, so now the damage dealers have got to get it done for Carnage Gaming. Overtime, desperately wanting to melt away. There's still one hanging in there. Scooter does end up going down, and of course no point to win on the defensive end when you're at 3. Fatal Ambition hold Carnage at bay once more.
And you have to recognize, though, this is a position for both of these teams. Either can win. Right, this is not necessarily the end-all, be-all. The Fatal Ambition are really good. That's Barrick and Leon Stress.
What?
Have you not seen the bad MS Pate? Best waifu right there.
I've seen the one on the left there. If Rochelle would turn, the Androxus one. I've seen the Inara one where she's just a wall.
And obviously you've seen the best, which one is Gurk, right? The
right, Gurk.
Poorly drawn Grok, because that's the one I use. There's no way, because I know you played games with me. I spray Gurk all the time.
Barrick showing a little leg there in that one. My goodness. If you're flustered, luckily there's a waterfall to take a cool shower here if you've watched a little bit too much. Ares up and over, though, with the Accursed Arm will ground us back in reality, and Groundford will fall as well. A couple kills swinging for Carnage Gaming. Ares starting to hit the mark. Another spike connecting from around the corner for RC Soldier, but unable to get out cleanly. Carnage Gaming has looked a lot better on the mid-fights.
And well, now that it looks like they're in a little bit of control here and there's a little break, I'll give you a quick Paladins history. There was a cosplay contest last year, sometime in the studio, I think Spring Fling, or whatever our charity event was, where Romanova made a cosplay of her as Barrick in Leon's dress. It was very fun to watch. And there you go. There's your hint of history.
That's right. I forgot about that with all the tools and stuff available in the office. In the meantime, though, a fantastic mid-fight for Carnage Gaming. It's happening. Finally, Granford uses the reanimate, but he immediately dies. Rochelle cleaned him up a second time. Carnage Gaming, all 5 members on a streak here, a chance to win the game. Fatal Ambition, though, has held strong on the defense score up to this point. Both teams use all of their ultimates outside of that seismic crash, which might have to get used here shortly if Divino wants to give Fatal Ambition a good chance on the defense.
I mean, this is really solid. Again, the way to gauge a Terminus ult is how long and how much do you get out of the life after the ult, and if the answer is nothing, then you know that they at least have shut it down properly. Good for Carnage already, starting off, again, kind of checkerboard style here. 2 kills for 1 overall as Carnage find a couple of kills, and Scooter stays alive. Everybody staying up here, specifically for Rachao, and that overpower is available. If he hits that onto an Inara, this could be an easy kill to get them around this corner. There's
her CC immunity. Likely got spotted out. No, it's not the Inara. It's Rubson instead. Goodbye. Exit stage right, says the Corvus. And now another as Headed goes down as well. RC Soldier so deep in the backline, he's left alone here. Now it's just the frontliners. Seismic Crash has to get used now, but won't find all that much. Carnage Gaming, they get the sweep. Roopson, last one alive, dancing back in his base. Still a chance. Carnage Gaming desperately hoping this cart will pick up its pace, but look at this. Scooter is going to move in, sweep a couple members of Carnage Gaming in off to the side. He found the stuns there as well. RC Soldier ends up going down, rampaging his Scooter, and once again, it's just the frontliners for Fatal Ambition left alive. Carnage Gaming, you can win it here. No chance you missed that one. Carnage Gaming brute force it in, and they'll win the set.
And you gotta feel there at the end, Inara locks herself in a block where she's like, I can contest here, I'm safe, I'm fine, and then you see the light up of the Genosoul come around you, and you're just like, all right, well, this is my life now. This is where things are going for me. I think that's just well played by Carnage. I honestly expected a much longer defense, very akin to the last couple we had seen from Fatal Ambition, but I think there's a little bit of, like, I think the ults used around the mid fight, once those were gone, a lot of them missing for that defense there for Fatal Ambition, so they didn't really have a lot to bounce back, Carnage Gaming. And then Carnage just had a really good selective targeting throughout all of that last 30 seconds, 40 seconds, minute and a half, whatever you want to say. I mean, all of it was very solid for them. I mean, 29-28 there did really well for Cool. But like you said, what was it, 9 and 18 there for RC Soldier? It looks like the dice came true.
All right, Goro, well, it's your fault. You rolled the dice, and you set in stone what would end up happening there. You did 120,000 damage, more than Ares. Yeah, you're holding the dice L, but Fatal Ambition holding the set L here as Carnage Gaming turned this one around. Remember, it was Fatal Ambition early that was raising our eyebrows, but Carnage Gaming kind of stays alive. We figured that would be the case once some of the cauterizes come online, really mitigate some of the sustainability that Fatal Ambition had with the Terminus and the Inara. And Gora, I think, standout set for Cool NZ across the board here. I think Ares as well, put his name in that hat as far as damage dealers go. But I was very impressed with what I saw from Cool today.
Yeah, I think Cool really was a standout player. And again, when you're on a team with Ares and Rachao, that takes a lot to do. And I think Carnage, again, just put their stamp of approval onto their match, as well as, I think, onto where they are right now, which I believe was in second place in all the standings. Still trying to play catch-up with Parallax Gaming, who have been doing a whole ton. But 6-3, look, it's at this point trying to get ahead of Ignite and In Control. Those are the two that are really causing a lot of trouble for everybody in this middle area. Everyone's been tied for second up until right now, and we'll have to see at the end of the week if that's still going to be able to come through. But just being able to take that lead, I mean, you've got 6 maps on anybody else, 10 maps still behind Parallax, but that's a solid position for Carnage to be in.
Do we think Parallax ever lose? Or I'm not sure they do. I mean, at least over here in Brazil, I mean, 8-0-20, what, they've dropped 4 maps the entire phase up to this point. About as good as it gets there if you're Parallax. The team with a chance to fight them will be Ignite Gaming, so another team somewhat towards the top of the standings over in Brazil. Snappin versus Team Project, though, Gore, over in North America. What do you like there in that matchup?
A lot, actually. I'm kind of curious. I've been interested in Team Project all year because there's a lot of good names on there. It's just whether or not you get to see them that, the week that they show up to play. Is it going to be, the phenomenal team we expect them to be? Or are they going to be kind of, where they've been, sitting towards the bottom of the standings? I think Snappin as well has made a couple of shuffles. No More Evil Eye, if I remember correctly, as we saw last week. And that's been pretty positive for them. Among the two, them and Sanguine in North America have kind of been on the rise. So I'm excited to see this set just to see what they're able to bring.
Well, Paladins fans, my sweet puppy stayed asleep for the entire set here, so I'm going to take off my headset and I'm going to show her to you guys for the first time really quickly, or else she's going to pee all over the place. So she'll send us to break here in just a second. One moment. Got to coax her out of her cage.
Got to coax her out of her cage. Also, Dave no longer has a mic, so I'm going to fill in and narrate this. All right, so what you see is a chair, and Dave's back. All right, and there, oh my God, look at the puppy!
On to break we go. Say, stick around. North America up next. Bye.
Nothing can stop me wanting you somehow. I won't let it die. I can feel you when you're not around. When the night gets cold
full system diagnostics.